The ongoing security operation in North Rift, the Interior CS Kitiki Kindure says the government will be announcing new measures on battling bandits causing havoc in the area. Kindiki said that a weapon amnesty to people with illegal firearms had seen more than 140 firearms surrendered, adding that it will not be extended and that the government will recover all the illegal firearms in the wrong arms.
We will be announcing new measures in the affected areas. Which new measures will entail phase 2 of this operation, and which new measures are going to turn around that operation. The cheap antics, theatrics, and maneuvers that these criminals continue to depict simply because they have done it before and succeeded. I want to assure the people of Kenya, this administration will permanently end this problem. We will liberate the North from the hands of criminals.
All right, we want to have that conversation and that operation that is happening in the North. And joining me to have that conversation is Wilfred Muliro, who is diplomacy and security expert. He's equally a resident research fellow at the Global Center for Policy and Research. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us here on News Center.
Good morning.
So it's been slightly over a month. Many can argue the impact hasn't been felt yet. What are your thoughts?
I would say this, listening to the minister, you can see that progressively the reality is coming out. You see, when we started, we talked of slightly, in a calm way, disturbed and dangerous.
Yeah.
But now we are moving to a level where we are almost talking of terrorists, and now he's talking about liberating the region. I think the issue is that two things. One, the legal perspectives. We've seen the leaders from that region calling upon the government to have a full-fledged deployment of the KDF.
Yes.
But then there is constitutional requirements for internal deployment. You need Parliament, National Assembly concurrence. And then the second issue is the question, do we really know the people we are actually dealing with?
Do you think we do?
The question is, if you look at that region, and this is our thinking, at the center we've been cracking the Northeastern issue for a long time. And the idea is that first, the government should go there with the mind of who are these people, and they are not. It's not blanket. It's not something you can say everybody in that region is a bandit.
Yeah.
Even the word bandit is also controversial because one, you may find that there are almost 3 layers of people we are dealing with in that region. There's a cultural person we may call the cultural bandit. There is a commercial bandit, and then there's a political bandit. So then, if you identify them in that manner, then you should be able to know where to use force, where to use soft power, where to use a combination of both that they call smart power.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me bring you back a bit, just a bit, yeah?
Yes.
You talked about the fact that we're seeing leaders call for full deployment of the KDF.
Yes.
Maybe we could start with that. Yes, there are constitutional requirements that need to be followed, but what are the parameters that inform the full deployment of the army?
It links to what I was just telling you,
Yeah.
that when the situation is dire, we all know the military deals with a doctrine in their training, and their doctrine is about external aggression on our sovereignty and territorial integrity. And now, when matters get to a level where we say now we should bring our final resort, they are better equipped, well-trained, they are the best of our security.
Yeah.
And that's why we think of them in terms of interstate threats, if another state threatens us. But what of a situation of internal threats that we call insecurity dilemma, you know, threats coming from within the state itself.
Yeah.
And therefore, you're very right, that's a very good question, is that the dilemma that still plagues democratic states like Kenya, because even in Africa we have other states that still literally in day-to-day management of internal security, you'll see the military working along with the police. You go to Ethiopia, you go to Rwanda, those places. But for Kenya, liberal democracy, we still keep them in the barracks, and we have the police as arbitrators with the civilians. Yeah. And now the question is, in fact, this is not the first time we are canvassing this issue. I think there was a time we were thinking about the defense bit to change that the military can now continue as when we had those threats of terrorism in that case. So I think it has reached a level where the parameter is that the dangers that are happening in that region have reached a level that may threaten the survival of the state itself. Yeah. Because even if they're internal, we can say there are two elements to that. There are regional dimensions. Where do they get the guns? What are networks? What are the threats coming from that triangle there, the Death Snatch of Ethiopia and Karamajong and Toposa, people there. And then the second thing is that people are heavily armed, and I was listening to the minister just a few minutes ago, and they look like it is a an organized militia. You know, it's no longer an issue of you are trying to separate normal criminals among civilians, and therefore the National Police Service can deal with that system of arbitration. This is an organized militia that the minister is saying it keeps on mutating and changing tactics. I saw yesterday in some of the press saying they have now, the group has adopted some form of guerrilla tactics. Yeah. You know, that's bordering to an element of a rebel movement that should now... it threatens the system of the state. Yeah. Yes. But in my view, is that we have not reached that level where we can say that please open the entire barracks and go there. Yeah. You can see we are still very thin. In fact, it is like a system of a buffer zone, almost a level of peacekeeping. But we are yet to fully open that. And I think it's because the government is doing... You need a lot of intelligence and map out what I asked you. Do we know the people we are dealing with? Yeah. Is it the entire region, or their clusters? They are politicians, they are cultural people, and they are the criminals themselves. From what you're saying, and of course what we are hearing from the ground, it seems like banditry is taking new dimensions. But then if we look at it from a different angle, you know, this is not the first time we're experiencing this. This is something that we've dealt with before, and others may even argue every time we sort of transition to a new government, it's something that comes to be. Is that the case? Is it more of a transition to a new government, or is it something else altogether? Actually, very good. That's a good observation. It's also one of the issues we observed at our center, is that if you look at the trends, you'll find that mostly some few months to the campaign for elections, it rises. Then during elections, then immediately after, then the situation rises. And actually, we may just be talking after this, then a time is coming when there will be a lull. And you are right. What does that imply? It gives you the implication I've been saying, that there is the cultural bandit, but there is the political bandit. We must also look at the role of the politicians, and it is in this line that I know is we have seen a lot of, you know, when you're reporting and experts agonizing on long-term projects, develop the area, do this and that. But one element that still stands out very clearly, and I think the pressure the government has put in that region has now smoked the politicians out to project their neck and realign. You can see the way they are speaking now, receding into the reality of their communities. One element is political goodwill. If we have that within that region, then I am sure that you don't need to invent the wheel. Yeah. This situation has been there for a long time, that you understand the patterns. And people even know what to do there. And this is a time you should ask yourself, how come that the most lethal group in Mount Elgon was sorted within a short time? Because it was systematically procedural, the politicians, the communities were involved. But in this case, I think it's some form of, we almost know the situation, but we bury it and come with force when it looks like it is escalating.
Yeah.
But we can do the same, and it looks like in that region because of that. You know, when you create something, they say a security dilemma, that you are trying to have extraordinary measures for the sake of securing the people, but in doing that, you are making them more insecure, and therefore they retract from giving you information.
Okay.
Yes.
I want us to talk about the measures that the government have been putting in place, even before the deployment of security officers. We saw the issue of them saying, you know what, let's issue firearms to chiefs. I can see you smiling.
Yes, yes.
Is that a measure that maybe even going forward can continue being implemented? And what are the implications of it in general?
Oh, thank you. Actually, you know, what you have mentioned is the entire spectrum of the KPR controversy. One of our senior members in GLOSEP spent time doing something about that. And when you look at the KPR people, and even it's getting worse, that give the guns to the chiefs, you look at them, they are weak, old people, and the reason they are given guns is for them to be able to resist. But you know, the dynamics around arming civilians is that you look at integrity, is there an elder, and how can a chief, you know, defend?
Yeah.
We are just basing on that, giving them more power to bully around the citizens, but not defend them. That KPR system, we must relook at it in terms of recruitment, the youthful people. Even these guys we are seeing here, bring them on board. Brush, give them some form, and I'll come to something else. Give them some form of training, even NYS system. And then the training, number 2, of the KPR. Do we train them? An old chief or an elder in the village, give them the gun. And then number 3 is the continuous management of the KPR system. How is it managed? Do you just give them guns, go away? Is there a way of managing and monitoring? That is the challenge. And actually, it informs you that this arming of the communities, I was listening to the governor of Turkana.
Yeah.
And he said that when the minister went to the border of Turkana there, the community people told him that your security will not manage, take them back, as we can protect ourselves and even protect government installations. And that one tells you that the community has detached from the contract with the state, you know, trusting the state as the provider of maximum security. And it is for that reason, I think, to some level, that the military approach will play that role of letting the citizens know that you are part of Kenya, and Kenya is strongly able to give its own security for the people. So even as you do the KPR arming the chiefs, that should be short-term measure. So
long-term solutions is what we are lacking.
Yes, the long-term solution is, I don't know whether it is the same, the long-term solution is that when I even heard that, that's where also there is a challenge, because there are many practices. These issues were dealt with in Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
The UN has been doing these things in El Salvador, the same thing. So
not even far, even Uganda, I think.
Yes, and we have a challenge with the terms. You know, you enter in, you hear some side, they are telling you disarmament, and you ask yourself, is it forceful disarmament? Who are we disarming? You hear amnesty. If you just tell somebody, privately in darkness, return the gun and go, what have you solved? Is it the gun or the person behind the gun that is of interest to us? It is the person behind the gun. And that is why there is a system, a very nice measure worldwide called DDR, that disarm, demobilize. Demobilization means bring these people who are behind the guns, put them in holding centers, work on them. And that's what we were thinking at the center that at GLOSEP, that such people, if you demobilize them, you turn the gun, they are youths, isn't it?
Yeah.
These are the people you can now start working on, change their interpersonal skills, life skills, train them. And then these are the people, if you feel that you are very thin on the ground, then these are the people you can arm to protect the society.
Okay. I want us to take a break, but hold on to your thoughts. When we come back, we'll continue with this conversation. Sekepe KTN News.